Her biggest mistake. I was hanging out with this girl yesterday that I used to sleep with like 3 years ago. I've just moved back to the town that I used to live in, and I don't know why I reached out to her. I've been reaching out to a lot of people lately, from my past, and like trying to make things right with them. I guess I don't know why I've been doing this. Maybe it's just guilt, from the past. I don't know, but I reached out to this girl I used to sleep with, this Middle Eastern girl, right? And I'm Middle Eastern too, so me and her have that in common. We kind of see eye to eye, like on a cultural level, which is kind of nice because when pretty much every relationship I've ever had was an interracial relationship because I'm a Middle Eastern guy in America. So it's either white girls, black girls, Spanish girls. So it's never there's always like a bit of a disconnect, right? It doesn't never feels like completely whole, right? So anyway, so I meet up with this girl I used to sleep with, and we used to kind of just hook up, right? But I could tell she always wanted more. But I was kind of an asshole back then, and I didn't want to, take it seriously for whatever reason. So anyway, so we met at like this park, and she's doing really good now. She's like studying to become a nurse or something like that. And we hung out and we started talking, and we started talking about how like we just used to hook up, and like her dad had died, so she was getting over that and all kinds of stuff like that. But she was probably the nicest girl I had ever dealt with. She was probably the only one that never showed any bitchiness, at all. But the thing is, we started talking, and of course, I apologized for being an asshole and stuff like that. And I always told her, like, if you ever just want to talk and be cool, we can do that, And I know guys are gonna be like, bro, what the fuck, man? You said you can't have female friends. You said you. Here's the thing: me and her have already slept together. She's been chill, and she never once, gave me any sort of shit. She never once, had a bitch fit or anything like that. And I feel kind of guilty about what I did. And I know we're not gonna date, and I'm gonna keep things. I always keep things at a distance anyway. But I don't know. I just felt like I had to make this right, at least for a little bit. So anyway, so me and her started talking, and this is where the video gets interesting, right? She was like, I've got to be honest. We started talking about how all the guys she used to sleep with because, when I met her, she was doing the hookup thing, right? So, part of this is me apologizing and making things right from my past just so I can move on. Another part of this was me getting sort of like some field research, more understanding into the female mind, right? So anyway, so me and her start talking, and she kind of starts admitting to me like, look, I regret doing what I was doing back then. I was depressed, and I regret sleeping with all those guys. She's basically like, she's in her early 20s now, right? So me and her started talking when we were in like our late teens. And I remember when I was sleeping with her back then when we were in our late teens, she had already admitted to me to sleeping with like 20 guys, right? So she was like depressed and lonely or whatever, and she was just sleeping with different guys to like fill that void. And basically, she admitted to me how she regrets doing that. And, she felt dirty because of it, and she's super ashamed of it. And I asked her, like, do you think sleeping with all those guys kind of messed with your head a little bit? And she was like, yeah, it kind of did. Like, I could tell she just felt dirty about it. She just felt like confused, And she's, like I said, we're both Middle Eastern, right? So she's trying to she was like, look, my parents don't know about it. No one knows about all those guys I slept with. Like, you're one of the only people that know. So basically, what she's trying to do is be a born again virgin and hopefully find like a nice Middle Eastern husband one day and, basically do things the right way. But I don't see that working. I think if she ever got into a real long term relationship with a guy, the ghosts of her past would start to come out over time and she would start to sabotage her relationship. That's just my experience dealing with girls in the past who have had tons of guys they slept with. Anyway, so yeah, she was telling me how like she's gonna start fasting because like Ramadan is tomorrow, and she's trying. I can just tell everything she's trying to do is to purge all those dicks out of her and become a born again virgin. She's trying to, and she told me like I haven't had sex in 3 years, which I don't necessarily believe. When a girl tells me I haven't had sex in 3 years, that means to me that means like 6 weeks. That's what I when a girl tells me 3 years, I'm like, okay, so it's been about a month and a half since you've had sex. And honestly, if I wanted to sleep with her again, I know I probably could, but I don't. I just this was like a bit more about getting some research to me and understanding more into the female mind, right? And kind of feeling a little guilty for how shitty I was in the past. But besides that, I could tell she was trying to, purge all those dicks out of her and sort of be a born again virgin. And that really got me thinking, how come guys don't have to do that? Like, how come I don't feel the need to purge all the women I've slept with out of me? How come I don't need, feel the need to become a born again virgin the way she does? How come I don't feel dirty about it? And don't tell me it's social pressure, because the social pressure on men is for us to be nice beta males. And when we go against our social pressure, we just feel good. But when women go against, and the funny thing is they don't even have the social pressure to be good girls anymore. If anything, the cool thing to do is to be a slut. So the point is, how come when women do what men do, they feel way worse about it and they try to purge the sex out of her and they try to become born again virgins? It's because they weren't meant to be sleeping with that many people. And she even admitted to me, like, look, I wish I just found one good Middle Eastern man, and lost my virginity to him and I just stayed with him forever. She was like, I hate how every time I sleep with a guy, I know I'm not the last girl he's going to sleep with. And that kind of goes towards what I said. It was like when I sleep with a girl, I know I'm not the last guy she's gonna sleep with. So it's funny how she was feeling the same way I was, as far as it's like, why even date anymore? Because you're not gonna be the last person that this person has. They're gonna move on to someone else eventually. So it kind of like kills the whole excitement of it. So it's funny, we were kind of seeing eye to eye in certain ways, but I just found it extremely interesting how she was trying to purge all of those guys out of her, that slept with her, because she's feeling dirty for what she did. And it's just funny how a woman can feel weak in one moment and do something that changes her life forever. Really, besides getting a woman pregnant, guys, if we like feel weak or something and sleep with a woman, it's just kind of like another experience. It's not a life altering event, but for women, it seems like every guy they sleep with adds to more and more baggage and regret and, psychological damage. And I could tell she was trying to just she wanted to start over. I could tell she wants to hit this reset button, but she just can't. There's no way to do it. Once it's done, it's done. And it was kind of heartbreaking to see that, because she's actually a really nice person and she's really, motivated and, wants to be successful and all that good jazz. But she just can't purge all those dicks out of her. It's just not happening. And I could tell that she saw in me, like, I could tell she can tell that I grew up, right? And she wishes she could have met this version of me back then. That she wishes that the guy I am now, who's, I still have all those bad boy alpha male whatever the hell traits. I'm still a gangster. I always will be. But I'm actually like a decent person now, and I actually am considerate towards people, and I actually could be loyal if I saw potential in someone. And I could tell she craved that. She could tell I had everything I used to have as far as the sexual thrills, but at the same time, I'm a lot more refined now than I was back then. And that's the thing about men, as we get older, we become more refined, we become more well-rounded, more wholesome. And women, they screw themselves by sleeping with, weak little, like fuck boys when they're in their teen years, and they become sexually imprinted by that weak, beta male energy. Even the alpha males that are teenagers are a lot more beta than an alpha male, in his late 20s, 30s, 40s. So I can tell she's like, wow, I wish I got that energy when I was younger, not the mediocre version of you or the mediocre version of all these other guys. That's why it's actually a lot more beneficial for younger women to be with older men, because they're getting a much more powerful man. They're getting a much more dominant energy, a much more securing, reassuring feeling, Imagine if women who are all like the second they turn 18, they get a husband who's 35. Those husbands would know how to take care of them and look out for them much better than the 18-year-old fuckboys and the 21-year-old fuckboys, who are just, all they know how to do is pump and dump, So, anyways, guys, that's just an interesting, little thing that happened to me yesterday. I met up with this girl, and I could see that she's full of regret about her past, and she's trying to basically become a born-again virgin. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and that's her biggest mistake.